It is the Anfield Wrap. It is John Gibbons in for Neil Atkinson, who's on an international pub crawl. Fair play, that's what he's up to. I am hosting this week, and the Anfield Wrap, as ever, is brought to you by our friends at Peloton. I have got Ian Ryan, I've got Josh Williams, and I've got Ian Salmon. Peloton is obviously not just our partner, but also the official digital fitness partner of Liverpool FC. Peloton prides itself on empowering its members. Peloton and Tour are teaming up to show fans this year how we score together through thousands of workouts across 14 plus disciplines, taught by more than 50 incredible instructors. Josh, I did a 4-day streak last week on the Peloton bike. That's good, that, isn't it?
Mate, yeah,
I was pleasing myself when Tuesday to Friday did a 4-day streak. I've even set up a Telegram group for Anfield Wrap people to join if anyone wants to. I don't really know how Telegram works, to be honest with you, so I don't know if you can search it. Just ask me and I'll send you the link if anyone wants to join. We're sharing tips, and they're big on power zone training. They're chatting about it. That feels a bit beyond me at the moment. Anything with power in, I'm slightly intimidated by.
How many's in the group, John?
15 of us at the moment,
okay.
But it's growing.
Looking to grow that, yeah.
Yeah, well, the more bigger the community, the better. You know me, Ian. So there's 15 of us at the moment in there, sharing tips. But it was Friday. It was 5 o'clock, and I did I normally just do the classes, and I'll do one that's already been or whatever. But I did a live one on Friday, and as I was on it, I was used to be in the pub now. Do you know what I mean? Friday 5 o'clock would be
maybe you could mix the two and just have a pint while you're on it.
I don't think that's advised.
That wouldn't work.
I don't think these sorts of suggest that. But no, it felt good. It felt good to be sort of on there. So yeah, if you want to join us in the Telegram group, give us a shout. I'll link you in. I think I can set up a group on there as well. I'm learning. We're all growing together on this on the Peloton as well. So nice to go through it together. But I am really enjoying it. And if you want to get involved, they are offering £450 off selected Peloton bikes and tread packages at onepeloton.co.uk. That is an offer that ends on the 21st of January. And yeah, you'll need an internet connection and Peloton all access membership at £39 per month. Terms apply. See onepeloton.co.uk. It is funny with it as well. There was a fella behind me that was obviously Peloton sponsor at the game, and it flashed up, and the lad behind me went to his dad because there was loads of kids there on Saturday, and he was like, "Oh, we've got a Peloton." I felt like turning around going, "Have you, lad? Yeah, what are you getting on?" Honestly, I'm I'm proper into it now.
Let me tell you about Peloton.
Well, I couldn't. I'm learning, but I was like, "Have you heard of this Power Zones gear, mate?" But I thought that was a step too far. But there was loads of kids in. I took my lad Ian, and it is a nicer crowd for these sorts of things, and they got to enjoy some decent football, 4 goals, and into the next round.
Yeah, it was job done. I think there's a lot of chat going into the game about what the manager might do with that big fixture against Forest on the horizon. You'd have to say, Gibbo, I think he gets the team spot on, to be honest, in terms of the balance and who you want to see. I think there's maybe some chat about maybe Chiesa starting, which would have been nice, but I think there might have been some illness there with him.
He'd been a little bit ill,
and he couldn't quite start. So that was the one where I think people were looking forward to seeing him a little bit more. But he gets to come on, he gets to get his goal as well, which is really nice. And I think overall, it's a massive job done. There were some of the results across the weekend where teams have been absolutely battered, but you don't need to win 8-0. You just need to get the job done. And I think sometimes these fixtures can be a little bit tricky. We'll probably come on to certain players, but when you are throwing in young lads, yes, they've got all the ability in the world, but they are coming up against real kind of, different physical beasts as opposed to what they're kind of used to maybe playing, regular football at their level. So it was always going to be more of a challenge physically than maybe one or two people will give it credit for. But Liverpool, they were always in control of the game. Really nice goals, a real variety of goals as well. The people who scored them, you're pleased to see them get on the score sheet as well. So all in all, a massive tick in the box.
Yeah, only positives really. We're going to go on to talk about specific players, Josh. I'm going to talk about the attacking players first and sort of defensive ones. But I think the manager will be pleased with how it's gone because there'll be some you'll have wanted minutes for. There's a couple that he suggested that have been knocking on his door a little bit. That he'd have been able to sort of speak to as well. But then there's others, in one case that we haven't seen at all who did themselves, no harm indeed. And he'll just be pleased to have got through it, and not everyone did.
Yeah, well, it's one of the perks of being in this tournament, isn't it? Going into it, I was a bit you can't help thinking to yourself how many games we're playing. We're playing 1 million games, mate, and going all the way in the Carabao, hopefully, if we get through against Spurs. Champions League, hopefully latter rounds, Premier League, obviously 38 games. So you can't help thinking, these players need a break somewhere. Maybe this competition's a bit of a distraction, but sometimes it does just act as a way to get minutes for a lot of players who need to get up to sharpness and stuff like that. So I think we saw that. We saw a lot of players who maybe a little bit rusty, but just needed to get on the pitch a little bit, and a 4-0 straightforward win, clean sheet. It's what you want, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what you want. In the hat. A couple of teams obviously went out. We knew one of Arsenal and Man United were going to go out. It's Arsenal who go in a game.
Such a shame.
The game that was it was an entertaining penalty shootout. My lad was loving it because Raya was diving so early. It just looked like it was almost comedy, and my boy was just like, "Oh, what is he doing? Why is he jumping like that?" And I'm like, I don't really know, to be honest with you. So it was sort of entertaining. So they've gone out, and little ones like Brentford, who you'd think wouldn't necessarily win the FA Cup, but you wouldn't have fancied them in the fourth round away, and so it just opens up a little bit more, for Liverpool with us, having a nice afternoon as well thrown in.
Yeah, although the fourth round draw seems to have kept all the big teams apart this time, so it's not like anyone's picking each other off. It's just very obviously, it kind of looks a little bit like seeding at the moment, like there were hot balls going on in that bag at some point.
Who did Spurs get? Was that
Spurs got Villa?
Yeah,
Brighton got Chelsea. So there's a couple
again, the ones someone's going to go out there who you wouldn't fancy going to away in the fifth round.
Yeah,
that's always I always try and sort of think about it early.
That's true. Yeah, I was just looking at it going, well, basically because I'd just had a conversation with my wife about who we'd got. And she's like, yeah, right, of course you have. Of course you've got Plymouth away. Why wouldn't you get Plymouth away? And then complained about City's very easy draw.
Who did the Blues get?
They've got Bournemouth.
Bournemouth always beat them, don't they?
Yeah.
It's one of the funny thing. Well, they always last 3 or something.
It's a new era now, though, isn't it? So anything could happen. Nobody knows. There's no forms compared to. I think it was a lovely afternoon. It was a nice day out. It was great for all the people who don't normally get to go to the game. And you could see there were a lot of people there going to like first games. So it's a fantastic first game to go to. Obviously, I saw Ted in the pub afterwards, and he'd obviously had a cracking day out.
He was buzzing,
I love the fact that he's now analysing goalkeeper form. That's absolutely brilliant.
He was jumping so early. You need to see it.
I need to go back and watch it because I completely forgot. I saw that the first half had been terrible. Decided I wasn't bothered watching it because I just watched most of the game before. I can't even remember what game I was watching now. It'd be the Tamworth. The Tamworth game. Which was wonderful to watch, and Tamworth could have won it on the 87th minute.
I was jealous of the end, because Spurs, they were all stood up and like a proper in a shed. Yeah. I was like, when was the last time I stood in a shed and watched footy?
Marine, when Marine played Salford in the later rounds of the FA Cup, the relatively later rounds. That's the last time I did it. I went and watched it at Marine.
I went to Marine once. This is really off subject. It was the last game of the season. It was 5-5 and I missed 8 goals.
That is spectacular.
Is it worth asking where you were? Or?
I was at the bar.
Thought you might have been.
Just walk off the.
It's so handy. It's so handy, isn't it? It's so handy.
So we're still in all 4 competitions, as Josh was saying, and one of the things he thought going into Saturday was it's a little tight being in 4 competitions because we're not that deep a squad at the moment. We're not as deep a squad as we were last season when the kids went all the way in the League Cup. This season we just look a little bit tighter. So you didn't expect to be seeing Trent starting, but we've only got Trent or Bradley at right back. There isn't a third choice anymore. There isn't a third choice. There isn't a 6th choice central defender. So we are that little bit tight, but the way we're rotating, the way that we got minutes for the lads who need it, you've got to say the manager managed it perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get into individual performances a little bit more, and we'll talk about the attackers first, like I said, and I'll read them all out, and you can talk about whoever you want here, and you can go first. Aren't you lucky? So I've got Darwin Núñez, Rio Ngamoa, Edward Practicing, Harvey Elliott, Diogo Jota, Szoboszlai, I'm including with the attacking players more for numbers really, but he was playing a little bit deeper than normal. Then you got off the bench Jane Dans and Chiesa. Who do you want to talk about here? You go six.
I mean, there's a few there, but I think Ngamoa, the fact that he gets his chance at that age, I think. To even be deemed good enough to play in that game, and I know it's League 2 opposition, but as I said before, the physical challenge that some of those players bring, Spurs don't find it easy, for instance, against non-league opposition at the weekend, so it can be a very different game, but the fact that they've backed him to go into a match like that at that age shows what they think of him. I think, as always with young players, you never want to get carried away too quickly because a lot can happen. There'll be loads of growing still left for him to do. But I think he did himself really proud to kind of deliver that performance. You know, there's little bits in there where you think, yeah, he's definitely got something. And we watch with interest to see how he kind of progresses from here on in. And then there's others, you know, I think it was really important. We got 45 into Szoboszlai with what's coming around the corner. I think for me, there's no, and we'll probably touch on it later, but there's no arguments about who's starting in that midfield on Tuesday night if everyone's fit. And he is one of those 3 players. So really key that he gets minutes. And then, I mentioned Chiesa before. Been a lot of chat about Chiesa, even leading into the game on a couple of the warm-up shows. And I just think we've definitely got a player there. I don't know whether it's going to work out. I'm not sure anyone can say, hand on heart, it'll definitely work out or not. But if you can get him right, if you can get him fit, and I know it's taken a long time, and there seems to have been 1 or 2 niggles along the way, but he is an unbelievable player if you can get him fit and firing. Now, whether he can adjust to the country, there's always a lot of talk about, Italian players and whether they settle or not in the Premier League. There are some really strong examples, but there are some examples where it doesn't work. If he can keep himself in good nick, then going into this stage of the season, it could be huge for Liverpool. To have a player of that quality who's done what he's done, who's achieved what he's achieved, playing for his national team as well and achieving great things there. If Liverpool can get him right, then that can only be seen for me as a massive, massive plus. Because you already see it at the weekend. Yes, again, caveat at all with the opposition. He was desperate for a goal. But I kind of love that in him. I love the fact that there was so much desire and commitment to wanting to get off the mark. You can see how important it was to him. It's very easy sometimes when it's not going well for you to toss it off a little bit and think, well, I've not been getting my chance here. I'm frustrated. It's not happening for me. Don't even get to start this game because of a little bit of illness. The easiest thing in the world would have been to have come on and been a little bit tentative, but it was none of that. You could just see in his performance that he was so keen to get off the mark, and I was really, really pleased for him.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's bent the rules there slightly, but they play 45 minutes each, so we'll let him off. It was like one sort of performance. So we'll let you do either or both of those before you pick your own. Josh, I mean,
I love Chiesa.
Well, we could do. Yeah, you talk about. Well, for me, on Chiesa, we don't know how many games we've got left in for the rest of the season. Let's say it's 30. Let's pick a number. Let's say there's 30 games left in the season. He's not going to start 20 of them. He's probably not going to start 10 of them. But what he does look like is a fellow who can make an impact when he's on the pitch, and that is something. And that's something that not every squad has got. Someone who looks like he's capable of, putting him on in certain moments or indeed any moments really, and he will try and make something happen, because almost every second he was on the pitch, he was trying to make something happen.
Yeah, I enjoyed what we've seen. I think it was timely as well, because I think there's been obviously growing frustration. We understand why, as to why Liverpool even signed him and things like that, and he's not getting on the pitch enough and stuff. And I think some people have maybe lost sight as to why Liverpool took that gamble for as little as 10 million. And I think we saw a reminder of the quality that he possesses. That was always a deal that any team should really be interested in, considering the level he's at. He's just a really busy forward, mate, involved in everything and gets lots of shots away, always involved with product in the final third and things like that. And there's a lot of attackers out there that never really become talking points because they don't really do anything. They're just kind of anonymous. I think Chiesa is the opposite of that. He reminds me of Salah. He reminds me of Nunes maybe last year. Just a busy forward who's always at the forefront of your attack and creating chances and linking play well and things like that. But if we can just get him fit, as you say, he's a nice option, nice bit of depth to have for the rest of the season. Good bench option, very direct when he's involved. So, he's not going to give his fullback a break when he comes on. It's just a fitness thing. Like, if it is fitness, we don't even know. It might be a homesickness thing, I don't know. But it is frustrating because when he's involved, he's quite clearly a very, very good player. And if Liverpool let him go anytime soon, which has been muted out there, he'll probably just do well wherever he goes. I think it's just a fitness thing, I think. But as a player, I think we can put to bed that we've signed a dud. I've seen someone say that he's just not that good. I think he's quite clearly good enough. It's other stuff that's coming into it, I think.
Yeah, he showed his talent and he showed his desire as well, which I liked. Ian, he could have gone on the pitch and thought of, I waited all this time and now I'm getting 45 minutes against the team who I'm reasonably sure he won't have heard of till last week.
Unless he's seen the advert on YouTube.
Yeah, do the joke, John. Go on.
Probably not. I don't think he got aired in Italy, but he actually showed, he showed a bit of hunger, he showed desire, he showed plenty of quality, and that was good to see.
He's a proper footballer, isn't he? He's fast, he's strong, he's got good feet. He makes the right decision, he wants to score. He could have easily had 4 goals in that second half. Easily, he wasn't far off it at all. He has that one save that Dan scores. He hits the post, he hits the side net. And but he's making the right choices every time he hits the ball. So he's clearly got quality. It might be homesickness, but I've just checked the weather in Italy. It's not that much warmer here than it is here, and it's bloody freezing here at the moment. But it's not that much warmer here, so it's not like he could be going back to subtropical climates or anything. He's not had a great season last season. He had injuries last season. He came without proper pre-season. It's taken time to get him up to speed. I think he's a really great asset to have. I think anybody would be talking about letting him go somewhere else. It'd be a waste of a player. As Josh said, for 10 million quid, a player of his absolute quality. He is, 2 years ago, we're talking about him as an £80 million player.
Yeah.
And he's still the same footballer. It's just, as you just said, it's the fitness, isn't it? As long as you can keep him fit, then if he's your fifth, I think he's probably our 5th choice forward, because I think Darwin's now our 6th choice forward, because Chiesa did come and stamp his authority on the game, whereas Darwin against Accrington Stanley didn't stamp his authority on the game at all. It's another opportunity not taken for me. Chiesa looks like the finished article as long as you can apply the fitness to him.
As long as he's happy to stay around. No, Liverpool have given him a 4-year deal, so it's important not to lose sight of that sometimes. We all want players to come in immediately.
Only about 26.
This is an important
26, 27, but we all want players to come in immediately and hit the ground running. Of course, that's what you want to see, but sometimes different players will take different journeys, and it may well be that he has a part to play at the end of this season where it might just be a goal in a big game and you think, fucking hell, how important was that when you reflect back on the season? So there could just be moments, or there could be an assist in a massive match, whatever it may be, even if, and I know we're paying the guy, so it's important to remember that the overall package is not just the initial fee, I get that. But if he is here for 3 or 4 years, then that's absolutely fine. Sometimes it will take players a little bit of adjustment time to settle into a new environment, a new team. There's different asks on him, different demands on him from probably what he's been used to. But that 4-year contract for me, you've got to have sight of that as well as all the other stuff. I think it's important to say that. And of course, if it doesn't work out, then maybe you just flip him in the summer and you get your money back. You'll definitely get your money back. What was it, 10, 12 million quid? He's worth far more than that if he's absolutely fit and firing and at his peak. We all know that. So maybe a little bit of patience, and I know it's hard sometimes, and I could be the worst one for it. We're not always kind of able to show patience when there's pressure moments, but I just think you've got to ride it out a little bit. And if he's happy to stay around, there's no benefit for me on seeing him leave the club in January, because as we've all said, there's definitely a player in there.
We said so many times as a fan base, what if we got Yari Littman or Fernando Morientes earlier in the career? Maybe this is getting this lad at that point in his career where it makes a difference for those 4 years.
Yeah, Ted's got a mate in school. Ted's featured very heavily in this show, hasn't he? You don't get this from Neil. His dad's Italian, and I was speaking to him once, and I was like, "Come on, then, what's the best Italian in town in Liverpool? What's the best Italian to go to?" And he was like, "None of them." He was just, like the Italians are funny. He was like, "I just cook at home." I was like, "Come on." He was like, "There's a couple of pizza places that are all right," and he said them, but he was like, I was just cook." So maybe Chiesa needs to go around to Fabio's for a meal, have some food.
It seems obvious, doesn't it?
Be a bit less homesick. So if anyone's listening, I can sort that. Yeah. So,
he doesn't fancy that queue at Casa d'Italia, does he?
he's like, I've made it time, but I'm not queuing up.
I'm not getting
It's fucking ridiculous, by the way.
So fair enough. But yeah, hey, maybe that is the solution. Okay, Josh, pick me an attacking player
to talk about. Are we ruling Rio out? Because we've already spoke about him.
Well, he didn't really do much, so if you want to do him, you can do him. You had nice feet.
Yeah, we'll do Rio, I think, because he's not scared, is he? He's as brave as you're getting, I think, for a kid at that age to just, every time he gets the ball, speaking about directness before, speaking about a player being busy, it's one of them where every time he touched the ball, despite being the youngest player on the pitch, you felt like something was going to happen. Then you was a bit like, go on, give it to Rio, let's see what he can do. And always directed his man, always trying things on the dribble, does stuff at high speed, and he's quite good at it as well. Some players frustrate me, like, for example, Dan James comes to mind as someone who, Timo Werner, as someone who's too quick for his own good, where like he'll do something rapid, get away for his man. His brain hasn't caught up, his brain's still a few yards back, and he'll just give the ball away or something.
I never thought we slaughtered Dan James on this show today, but I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm as well.
I mean, there's a few of them, to be honest with you. He just came to mind immediately. But Rio looked like the type of player who is in sync with all that stuff. You know, he doesn't lose the ball even after dribbling past two players, and he attracts players to him as well. I think that's a big perk of those types. You know, they've got that kind of gravity almost, where because you have to double up on him. You know, someone like a Szoboszlai or something ends up free a few yards away, and considering his age, you know, it's scary to think of what he could become in like 3-4 years. When at that point he'll still only be like 21. But that's a high ceiling player, that for sure. Like,
yeah, just how he clearly looked like or felt like he belonged is really important. And it's the first time I've seen him in the flesh. I used to watch a bit more academy football than I sort of do now, but I spoke to someone a month or so ago about him who'd seen quite a bit of him, and I was like, what's he like? And they were like, he was great, and they were like, he's not lightning quick. They were like, people will expect him.
He looks it.
Because he's not...
I think his feet are.
Yeah, no, his feet are, that's what I mean.
I think his brain is, isn't it?
Well, I think this guy who's like, people are going to expect him to be like Raheem Sterling, do you know what I mean? Because we took him from Chelsea, and you know, young winger who breaks through, you expect him to be like, you know, just putting the burners on sort of all the time. He said he's not like that. He said he's a bit more like Sancho was when he sort of broke through, in that it's all quickness of feet, it's all intelligence, and you could see that straight away, you know, how he just seems to see the game really well, and like Josh says, he's a confident boy, which is great because he'll need to be.
Yeah, it was the old maxim, isn't it? The first 2 yards are in your head, and he's absolutely got that. He looks like a player who knows what his next two moves are after he's beaten the current man. He can clearly see what's going. He's a lad whose brain's probably a little bit further ahead than his feet at the moment, and his feet are fantastic, but he understands the game. And the Guardian made a great point that within 10 minutes, they were tripling up on him, on a 16-year-old. And if you think the 16-year-old's your biggest threat on the pitch and it's leaving space for everybody else.
Just need Mo Salah on the other wing now, don't we? He'll be laughing.
Just sticking there where you can stick me on the other wing, and it's yeah, nobody will be tripling up on me. Is the rest of the team aren't afraid to bring him into the game.
Yeah.
And they want to bring him into the game. You could see them playing the ball out to him deliberately. It's not like it's a kid that they think might be okay. They know what he can do already. And this is one of the things that Arne said in the press conference this morning. The younger lads have made an impact in training already, so now they're making an impact on the pitch. So the team know what they can do, and he looks to me like a very exciting prospect. He's, you know, we don't know what his end product will be as yet. Although we've seen a couple of fantastic goals from the highlights reel that's popped up on YouTube. But for the first team, scoring goals for the first team's a lot different than scoring goals for youth football, obviously. But he's exciting. He's electric. It's that crackle of anticipation that when he gets the ball, you know something's about to happen.
He seems quite Slot as well, doesn't he? You know the way Slot is focused on creating them 1v1s out wide, and that benefit Rio completely. You know, so he suits the manager, which isn't always the case. Sometimes you get a youngster coming through and he looks promising and all that, but the fella in charge, he doesn't really, you know, there's not much of a marriage there. Whereas I think Slot would absolutely get the most out of him, just given the nature of his game and things like that.
I've got a brilliant segue from what Josh just said. Harvey Elliott. I don't know where Harvey Elliott sits in Arne Slot's team at the moment. I really don't. I love Harvey. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great servant for the club already. He's a great character. He's a great footballer. But something we just done the team talk show there, and something that I didn't realise in the team talk. Arne's come out on the press conference this morning and said, you know, he had Harvey in the office, and Harvey wants to impress in the number 10 slot. And so, you know, given the players that we had, I had to play him out on the right. Yeah, but he had Jota, and he played Jota as a midfielder.
I don't think he's got any interest in Jota.
Right.
Yeah, I think when you were talking there, Josh, I don't think it's a slight on Harvey. I think when you were talking there about Rio, I was thinking you'd almost back him to play in rather than moving forward out there now. He does a little bit of Darwin out there, doesn't he, in the game? But I think that's more a necessity. But I think, if it was a choice of moving Jota or even Gakpo out wide, I think now he'd go. I'll pick Nguema with it because he's a wide man.
Yeah. I think we've seen that, haven't we? Throughout the season, where he's not been tempted to move a Gakpo, for instance, to the centre, where the previous manager would have absolutely have done that. I think on Elliott, I feel a little bit sorry for him because I like him as a player. I think sometimes you will look at his physical attributes and think there might be reasons along those lines as to why he's not getting in when the team already contains McAllister, for instance, as an example. But, Slot said a few things about Elliott and about other midfielders and that they're all at a certain level, and also that, some of these players who've been out for a long time have got to work their way back to fitness, which, feels fair. But then to do that, Elliott might argue, well, to get back to that level, I need to play minutes. Yeah. I need to have some game time. So I was really, really surprised that he doesn't feature against Tottenham in the League Cup semi. I could understand why maybe he doesn't start because of the things I mentioned about McAllister, and all of a sudden you're a really small midfield. But the fact that he got no minutes in that game, I think if you're Elliott, that would have concerned me a little bit.
And there's been a few games where he could have done 10, 15 minutes.
If you're him, I'm just thinking, because the other manager, the previous manager, Klopp, did rely on him so much from the bench, it's probably been a bit of a stark contrast to all of a sudden he's looking at matches and just thinking, where am I getting my minutes from here? And I hope Liverpool don't look at him as someone who they'd be happy to let go at some point, because I think there's definitely a player in there. I do understand it's got a compliment, and that's where sometimes you're looking at him as a physical specimen and thinking 5'6", 5'7". It can be quite difficult at times to incorporate him, but I do think we've seen enough over his Liverpool stint so far to suggest he's a player worth keeping around. I think on that, the manager's got some interesting decisions to make around some of the younger players. What does he do with the Rio moving forward? What does he do with the Dans? Dan's had that injury that kept him on for 5 months. They'll have to have a look at that and think, well, what's his way back to full fitness? Is it playing regular, or is it keeping him around the first team squad and he's up against, real top quality talent in training? I think that'll be quite interesting. But what I think you've seen from this manager is he's got a benchmark that you need to hit as a young player. And if you're not looking like you're capable of hitting that, he's happy for you to leave through the door, whether that be on loan or permanently. I think he's already got that in his head, that you have to hit a certain level to represent this football club, which I'm banging into, by the way. I think too often, people are allowed just to coast a little bit, not through anything they've done themselves, but we just keep them around just on the off chance. But I think he's really clear. I expect certain things, and if I don't think you can get to that level, I'm happy to move you on your way. So I think it's really interesting what they do with Rio and what they do with Dan's moving forward. Are they going to keep them round, or are they going to think, actually, let's be really smart and clever with a loan move, get them up to speed that way, bring them back in? I think that'll be quite intriguing how that plays out.
Winced a couple of times during that, Josh. Is there anything you want to share with the group?
Well, when Ian said, I hope the club don't let him go or something like that, I had thought, I think they might.
Elliott, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they might have an eye on it, and I'm thinking I'd probably like to see him stick around. But
yeah, I'm the same. But that's what I mean. I think I don't know. I just think
you'd be worried if you were in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I think the indicators so far are not great. Slot's first full,
and he hasn't even bought anyone yet.
No,
do you know what I mean? So when he starts getting a few players in, at some point you would imagine they'll buy someone. Then
I think Slot's first full window of fine. I think he's quite brutal, and I think he. You spend a year. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't do much business in his first window. I think the idea is get a year's evaluation, if you want, out of them, and let us know what's going on. And I think with Elliott, so far as it stands, I think he'd probably be the most controversial, on the chopping line, if you want. I think he's a top player. I think he's got lots of potential. I said the other day on the post, on the pre-match warm-up, I think it was, that if Brighton are interested in one of your players, it's usually a sign that he's half decent. They seem to be in the mix for him, along with Borussia Dortmund, who again are known for picking up talent.
Yeah, I
just think what we've seen so far, it does look like he doesn't fancy him. I don't think it's purely down to injuries, because Kanate was out for an extended period. As soon as Kanate gets fit again, he's back in the team immediately. Similar with Alisson, I suppose. With Elliott, he's been fit now for a while. He doesn't feature at Spurs really, and Yeah, to be getting your minutes against Accrington Stanley and things, no disrespect, but like Elliott will
after
have expected.
150 games at the club already.
Yeah. He's got skills you can use. He's really technical. I think he'd do well in that 10. I think he's a bit more creative than Jones and Soboslai personally. But
I think his issue is he hasn't got the speed.
Yeah, he hasn't got the
work
physicality. Yeah. That's all. You know, he hasn't got the pace.
I think there's a bit of a size thing as well.
I think so.
They're looking at he's looking at maybe McAllister in the team as well. I'm thinking if we had a bigger midfield generally.
That does make you smaller. If you're putting them two together, then you can understand why the manager might have reservations. But it's back to the point where there are times when you could make tweaks, you could make changes, and just get him in for the last 20s, half an hour. We're not even seeing that.
I was shocked he didn't come on against Spurs, and I thought he would have made a real difference. But on Dan's, I think I'd keep him around. I understand the temptation around alone because I think he'd get a lot more games. But there's certain players who I just think I think he suits the big stage. I think he likes it. I don't think it's any coincidence that he's got 3 goals and they're all in front of the Kop. Like I think like some players just like, I don't know, just like love the big occasion. He looks like in a nice way. He looks like a bit of a peacock to me. He looks like someone who's want to go, fucking get on me. Do you know what I mean? I think if you put him down, I think maybe down at a league or whatever, and then I don't know. I'm not sure he quite sort of shine in the same way. I think he likes wearing that Liverpool shirt. I think he likes the Anfield. I think he likes that sort of environment really, and I'd be keeping him around. I think you get more. I think you get more out of him, sort of in that way. But we'll see where he goes. Okay, let's have a tiny break and then we'll talk about the defenders. So defensively, then, and I've included defensive midfielders in this partly because most of them end up playing centre half. But we've got Chimikas, Endo, Quansah, Trent, Morton, Bradley, McConnell, Neoni. Josh, I'll let you go first this time. Who do you want to talk about?
I've liked Endo's last 2 performances, personally, including the Spurs game. I think there was a moment when Quansah goes down against Spurs, I was doing the calculations in my head, like, how many centre-backs have we got left here? It didn't take long, because we've only got
the me 2 hands.
Yeah. Because I was going back to that, Reece Williams, Ozan Kabak period, and I was just thinking, come on, please, no. So, Kanate's out, Gomez is injured, obviously. Virgil's untouchable, but when Quansah goes down, I was thinking, what's going on here? But since then, Endo's came in and did 2 stints at centre half. And one massive positive with Endo that we know going back years in his career is he, touch wood, he doesn't get injured. He's very robust, and you know what you're getting with him. And he might not be the most physically dominant, he might not be the most gifted technically or anything like that, but you know he's really steady as a player, and he's came in a position that he's not overly familiar with, certainly in the Premier League, certainly in England, and he's just delivered 2 steady performances, as I said. So it feels like I feel a bit more relaxed now if Kanate was to pick up a little knock or something in the next couple of weeks, and maybe I think Gomez is still a little bit far away. I think Slot said that this morning. I just feel a little bit more relaxed now that Endo's there if you need him. I think he would be able to just come in and just always deliver a 6.5, 7 out of 10 performance and drift under the radar, do a job and get out of there. And I think it's a nice kind of safety net to have almost between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned in the press conference that he talked about Elliott, but he was actually making a point about Endo. He was like, listen, with Elliott, I knew he'd want to play 10, so I had to get him in the room and explain to him why I needed him to play wide right. But he was saying, but with Endo, I was picking him centre half, and I knew he'd be fine because I thought he'll just go up there, because that's the kind of guy, he is really. So it was almost like he was finding a way to praise Endo, and I think he is in the manager's thoughts a little bit more now that he was sort of early in the season, and I think that's because of his attitude and because of his dependability, like Josh says. And listen, whether he's here next year, we'll see. In 2 years, almost certainly not. But I think he's doing the Endo stuff of just going you put me on the pitch, I'm not going to let anyone down, including you.
He's clearly impressed the manager with his attitude and with his professionalism, and that was the first thing that came across, and it was the fact, he brings up the Elliott point specifically because he's praising Endo, because he's, what is like as a person. He said, well, Harvey's a great person as well and great professional, but what he's like, I don't need to talk to him because wherever I play him, whenever I play him, if he's coming on with 5 minutes, he will give everything. He said, And that might sound ridiculous to somebody who's not in football, but been in football a long time, not everyone does that. It's not
people need reassurances. They need an arm on the shoulder. They need things explained to them.
And sometimes, if they're a 30-year-old who's captain of the country, and you're asking them to come on in a different position for 5 minutes at the end of the game, they might think it's below him.
Yeah,
Endo doesn't. Endo's going to give you everything, and what he gave us the weekend was a sensible, steady performance. He's just intelligent and sensible, and in midfield, his first thought has been to get the ball forward all the time, make things happen as much as possible. As a central defender, I think he's more steady, more likely to just delay the game a little bit. The one thing we missed at the weekend because of having him and Quanta playing there was the big ball out of the back. So that there's an option missing from the back in terms of getting the ball forward a little bit quicker, which I don't think is quite natural to him, despite what he does in midfield. But he's not going to let you down. His height might be a bit of a difficulty as a centre back at times, but
he's brilliant in the air though.
Yeah, he's good.
For his height, he's good in the air.
I think to put it simply, he's a manager's dream, isn't he? Where you cannot play him for that amount of time. There's no complaints that we're aware of. He just gets on with his job. And
there's been times he's not even made benches.
Yeah,
this year,
exactly.
Which must be
he'll be frustrated. I think on one hand he'll be also probably feeling quite lucky that he's managed to find himself at a club like Liverpool when he was kicking about the mid-table kind of area of the Bundesliga. So there is that, and he's at that stage of his career now where part of him probably is pretty grateful that he's managed to find himself having this stint at this time of his career at a club like ours. So I get all that, but footballers still want to play, and he's not had loads of that. But I think having the ability just to bring him in those moments when you really need them, you can't put a price on having some of those lads around the squad. And your point around the kind of diagonal ball and the long ball out from defence, I think he's a player who recognises what he can and can't do. Yeah. So against Tottenham, he tries a couple of those and they go astray, and I think he quickly understands that, hang on a sec, maybe that's not what I should be doing, I'll just keep it simple. So I think he's almost in tune with what the match needs. I don't like making assumptions, but you can imagine that he is someone that just takes on instruction incredibly well. The fact that he gets the captaincy at the weekend for a little bit, I know it's being passed around between different players, but he's the captain of his country, or has been at different times. So I just think he is a valuable squad member. I understand where some people might say, well, maybe the manager's underused him a little bit. I think you can maybe make that argument in terms of him coming on off the bench at times, Man United being maybe a prime example. I wouldn't necessarily have used him any more than Slot has from the start, because I think he is a player who, you recognise his limitations. There are certain moments when you want to see him, but Liverpool will often dominate the ball, and I don't think that's necessarily his best quality in terms of being progressive with it. But there's no doubt, as a character, as an individual, he's someone that you'd want to see around the squad because he's got lots of those leadership qualities.
Do you want to pick another one?
You know what? I'd go for his defensive partner at the weekend, Quansah, because I think there's been a lot of chat about him. I understand why. I sent something to Phil Blundell maybe a month or two ago around Quansah where I suggested to him that he might just need a loan because he's getting little bits here and there. It's not quite working for him in certain games. It's been a season where maybe you've looked at him slightly differently to last season and really just questioned his level. Can he replicate that? What is his true level? It's hard to know at this stage. I do think there's a player in there, but I don't think you can look past that. His confidence was probably shot quite a lot at the start of the season. And the more it's gone on, I think that's just had a real impact on him. And even now, the slightest little mistake, it just feels like it gets jumped on a little bit. There was the performance at, I think it was Brighton, where he plays quite well, and then I think it's the end of the game, it just gets away from him a little bit. There's a deflection, there's a mistake, and I think there's just been a series of those games where there's been little incidents in it where you're just questioning one or two things. So I think for him now, the next stage of his development, and it will have to be probably next season now because Liverpool can't afford to be without another centre half, is maybe get him a really, really good loan. Let him play every week, let him develop on someone else's watch, and let's just see what his true level is, because there was no doubt at times last season, Klopp was fancying him over Konate, which feels a bit mad now, but that was how it was playing out, and it wasn't just a fitness thing. He was choosing to go with him. We had that mistake in the Man United match in the cup game, but those kind of things can happen to anyone. But I just think we need to understand where his true level is. So I think if he goes out next season somewhere, we get him a really, really good loan. Let's see what he's all about.
Yeah, he's done well. He's done well in that game and shown he's someone who hopefully the manager can rely on. Well, hopefully not too much, because we'd love it to be sort of Canate and Virgil for the rest of the season, but that does feel unlikely, what with the number of games, like Josh says, that we have. So, yeah, a good performance from him. Do you want to pick one last defensive player to talk about, Ian, before we move on?
I'd like to talk Morton for a second.
Yeah.
Because there's rumblings coming out now that he's quite fancy a move.
Well, he's come out afterwards and pretty much said he did an interview after the game where he's like, I need to be selfish.
Yeah.
Which he does.
Which is a very sensible thing for the lad to say, because he's done okay. He didn't have a bad game. As we were saying on the post-match show, he kind of doesn't get the glory that McConnell gets when McConnell comes on, because everybody's knackered when McConnell comes on. And McConnell has a cracking game. And look, the more accomplished of the two on the day, because I think Morton just did a lot of kind of like steady work that didn't really give you a clue as to where he stands.
More looks like he's obviously going to have a good professional career, whereas I think McConnell looks like he could play for Liverpool.
Yes.
I mean, that sounds stupid because they've both played for Liverpool. That happened on Saturday.
And one thing.
But I think McConnell looks like someone who could play for Liverpool long term in terms of his class, whereas Morton, they said he's a great footballer and he'll go and he'll have a really good career, but I think it's likely to be somewhere else. And I think he knows that, and that's why he's saying it.
So the sensible thing would be for him to get a move as soon as he can. I don't know if it'd be this window, because we are that short in bodies. So, wherever he goes, as you said, he's going to have a good career. And it might be a championship side. It might be somebody lower down in the Premier League. He will be a footballer, but it's just got to that point where you're thinking he's not going to make that next step for Liverpool to become somebody that's going to be second choice, basically.
What do you think of the two of them, Josh? Morton and McConnell?
I actually favour Morton, if I'm honest. I think Morton looks like, as I said, just a footballer. I've always said this. He just looks like a natural footballer who understands the game and just, got that scanning elements about him. Makes really good decisions, very rarely loses possession, and very rarely makes like an error where you think, he's a kid, what's he doing? And he just does steady adult footballer things, I think. But he's getting linked with, like, I think RB Leipzig in the summer just gone. So,
well, there was Leverkusen links, yeah.
But I don't think he'll make it at Liverpool. Like, I think Liverpool will get a decent fee for him. But I think he's probably like above the Championship. I think potentially like lower ranks Premier League or somewhere abroad, like one of those clubs we just mentioned there. He just doesn't. I thought he'd get maybe a few more chances this season, but we've learned. When it comes to Slot, he is quite like, the bar is seriously high, and I'm into that. I'm very much in favour of that. So, if he doesn't meet it, so be it. But a lot of players don't meet it.
What do you think?
On them two in particular? Yeah. I think it's hard, because I think, and maybe you can apply it a little bit to Quansah, but less so than them two, because he's played more games and more minutes. But certainly this season, I think it's difficult when you're just coming in for the odd game here and there, and then you've got to take into account the level of opposition as well. And these lads are playing up against teams at certain times when they are better. They're better than League Two. There's no doubt about it. But you've also got to factor in when they do come in, they're playing with quite often not always Liverpool's first team as well. They're playing with other lads who maybe are on fringes and stuff. So I think it's really difficult to know. I think both will have good careers. I'm not sure either of those careers will be at Liverpool, if I'm honest. But the McConnell points, I take it from you, John, because I've not seen enough of them to know for definite where his future lies. But no doubt, both have got ability, and as I say, both will do really well, I'm sure, in their careers. But I think the fact that you've got to be, we've all touched on it, the level at Liverpool is so high, and it always should be the case as well. You've always got to be looking for the best. And, I very rarely get attached to footballers, because I always think if there's a better one out there, I'll trade them in and get the next best one, because as long as they're on a knobhead, as long as they pass that rule, do you know what I mean? Then you should always be striving to get the very, very best at your football club. And whilst those lads look talented, and I'm sure they'll have good careers, as I said, maybe that their future ends up lying elsewhere.
Okay. We didn't do Trent, but he's definitely going to come up in part 3 because we're going to ask who's playing right back. But before then, Last week, Simon Bowers, who's one of the trustees at the LFC Foundation and a really good guy, came in to talk to us about the work he does in his life as a medical practitioner, but also within the foundation. And of course, the upcoming Legends game against Chelsea as part of the foundation fundraising every year, which takes place in March. So here is me talking to Simon, which you'll get as audio and video, however it is that you're enjoying this show. And then we'll be back to talk about the biggest game of the season so far. Here is John Gibbons. I'm in the studio with Simon Bowers, who is a GP here in Liverpool, but also a trustee at the LFC Foundation. So, Simon, thanks for coming in to see us.
It's great to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about the work of the foundation, and in particular, this really exciting Legends game that's coming up and where the money's going for that. But first of all, just a little bit about you, Simon, about your day job, and then how you got involved in LFC Foundation.
Sure, yeah. Well, I've been a GP in Liverpool for 22, 23 years now. From the city, educated in the city, and love the job, really enjoy the job. But it occurred to me a number of years ago that there was only so much you could do with prescriptions and advice, and also that there were a load of people that weren't coming to see me in the community that we live in. So I got involved in kind of NHS leadership, and for a wee while I was kind of in charge of a load of the programmes that Liverpool commissioned as an NHS, because we spend £1 billion in this city on healthcare. And I thought to myself, well, if I can get into that, then I can get my hands on the checkbook. We can do some really good stuff. We can shift care out of hospitals, because it's very expensive to look after people in hospitals. You know, £1,200 a night thereabouts in ITU, 250 quid for a night on the ward, 120 quid to go to A&E, and that's all taxpayers' money. It became very clear to me as a GP that if you can do stuff to prevent poor health, if you can do stuff to support people to live independently, then you're going to save the country money, and the NHS will actually get better at what it does, and my day job will get easier. And I came across the foundation because we were actually commissioning some programs from the foundation, and there was a men's health program, military veterans program. There was some stuff where I actually ended up on Match of the Day too, which was an odd...
People are like, I don't recognise them.
Couldn't explain that one to me mum. Mum, I'm on Match of the Day. You're a doctor, aren't you? But I ended up on Match of the Day too, talking about a stand-up comedy program that we funded way back when from the foundation. And you have conversations, and they were looking for a kind of health specialist to join the board of trustees. And it's important that you kind of viewers understand that at the time the foundation was going through a real big change. There was a perception in the city, and I was sick and tired of hearing it, that Everton did more.
Yeah.
And I think from the point of view of individuals that they were impacting at the time, Everton did do more. And Liverpool were really behind the curve, not in the footballing sense, you know, for many years, but certainly in terms of what we could do in the community using the power of our badge. And club got new ownership. We got new chief exec in. I say new, he'll kill me for saying that. Matt's been with us for a number of years now. And the club put a lot of energy and a lot of time into really reinventing the foundation. And we get to the stage where we are now, we can stick a Legends game on and raise £1 million in 90 minutes. There's not many organisations, certainly no other organisations in our city can do that.
Yeah.
But around football, it's that power to draw people in. People don't tend to understand that the vast majority of the stuff that makes you ill is absolutely nothing to do with your doctor. It's to do with your housing, your education, your job, the choices you make in terms of lifestyle. And yeah, I can hear people groaning already about, oh, here's the doctor going to tell me to eat less, exercise more, all that stuff. But that stuff's really important. But what we know is that it's less powerful if it's someone with a stethoscope around the neck telling you, because I'm going to tell everyone to quit smoking, that's literally my job. But actually, if you can engage other bits of the community, it's not always football, you know, the Philharmonic do brilliant stuff, our hospitals do brilliant stuff. It's all the key institutions in the city working to make Liverpool a healthier and therefore wealthier place to live, which is kind of the passion that drives me.
People might not realise that the foundation scope is that wide, but the foundation focuses on four things, and one of which is health. And you know, people will maybe see a lot of work that the foundation does, you know, around football and football coaching and sessions and stuff like that, and not just football, but in general sports. But health is a big focus, and particularly this year.
It is 100%. I mean, we're I feel very fortunate as the kind of health spokesman, the health trustee, that all of the proceeds for this year's Legends game are going to go to our health programmes, which is really going to kick us on. We're delivering a load of stuff, and I think particularly at the moment, after COVID, after years and years of austerity, mental health is a massive priority. The need is enormous. I've never seen anything like it in a 20-odd year career. And a lot of it is stuff that is preventable by the kind of programs that the LFC Foundation can deliver. So if you get to a teenager that's feeling a little bit down, or is feeling socially isolated, or has just got a huge amount of exam stress, because we ask an awful lot of our kids nowadays, John, if you can get to them before they become unwell, and you can get a trusted figure with a liver bird on their chest that they've spoken to and they've played a bit of footy with, or they've done some all sports activity with, they look forward to those sessions. They're more likely to say to that professional, I don't feel great, I'm a bit worried, or there's trouble at home, or I'm worried my dad might be drinking too much, or whatever it is that young person needs to come out with. What we're finding is that impact is greater when it's done at that early level. And, we reported our kind of impact report very recently. It was great to see you at the session at Anfield. The thing that blew me away is this £93 million a year in social value. It's really difficult to describe what social value is, but if you basically add a Liverpool pound in the city and you give it to the LFC Foundation, we'll give you about 12 quid back in value. So that's value to the system. That might be hospital savings because the kid doesn't end up in hospital. That might be police savings because the kid doesn't get arrested. That might be local authority savings because the kid doesn't go into care. And by impacting lives at that early level, not only do you massively improve people's life chances, give them a chance of getting a better job, getting a better house, being happy, maybe being able to afford a season ticket. But what you also get is you save the city more of those pounds to spend on more of the good stuff to make more people better.
The health inequalities within this city are crazy, aren't they? And we all know, around the country there's different life expectancy, but I was blown away. I saw something recently, the difference in life expectancy from somewhere like Mossley Hill, which is a more affluent area of the city, to somewhere like L4 where the team are based. It's about 20 years or something like that. I was completely blown away when I saw that, and that just shows that that's not to do with how good the hospitals are in Liverpool, because everyone's using the same hospitals, they use a sort of similar sort of GP practices. I'm sure you would say that the place that you work is just as good as one sort of, in another area in Liverpool. So it's other things, and it is education, it is income, it is so many other things that I'm sure that these programs are focused on that are leading to someone. 20 years is just unbelievable.
It's a disgrace, and it's been a disgrace for years, and we've never ever cracked it. So when I first got into the kind of NHS leadership stuff, the story was that there was 15 years between Kensington and Liverpool and Kensington and London. But then if you got on the train at Kensington and Liverpool, you could find another 10 years just going down the Northern Line back to South Liverpool, where people were living longer. There's a couple of things that have shifted. I've already talked about austerity, which made massively more terrible impact on those that live in deprived areas. Austerity was almost targeted at that. And then we had COVID, which also impacted people in more deprived areas worse, because these things tend to. But then the other thing is that people don't understand is that the NHS, in the delivery of healthcare in this country, contributes to only about a quarter of your well-being and your health outcomes. Things like access to employment, access to education, whether your house is leaking, whether your carpets are wet, whether the air you breathe is rubbish, are far, far, far more important. And it's them that drive inequality. So it's very difficult for an NHS to change things, open more beds, liquor paint on a hospital ward, another GP here and there. Not going to change health inequalities in the city, because that's about the life that you are born into. I was the children's lead for the NHS at Liverpool for a while, and there was a fact that blew my mind, which was something like the greatest predictor of whether or not you drove a good car in your 20s was whether your mum and dad read to you when you were a baby.
Wow.
I mean, that's the ultimate example of kind of early impact. But that's the kind of stuff the foundation's trying to do. It's dead easy for me to sit and say to a patient, you need to eat more fresh food, you need to cut out the ultra-processed food, you need to lay off the takeaways, when that person's never even been taught to fry an egg. They're walking out of my room thinking, you've given me nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm sitting there, writing in exactly, by someone in a white coat. Well, it used to be a white coat. Someone with a stethoscope round the neck who looks like a telly doctor, saying to me, yeah, blah, blah, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And I don't even know how to chop an onion. I haven't got the time or the resources in my practice to start cookery classes. Oh, wish you did. Absolutely wish you did. But the LFC Foundation can do that kind of stuff. And everyone in the community do it. There's other community organisations that do it. I'm so proud of the growth that we've had. 127,000 people last year. A goal to get to 500,000 by 2030. that's no more ambitious than potentially Liverpool winning the league and the Champions League this year.
So the Legends game this year, it's Liverpool v Chelsea. It's in the international break in March. First of all, it's a fantastic occasion. A lot of people I know take kids. A lot of people who maybe can't get to a league game because they're at the top of the league and it's hard to get a ticket and things like that. And it's a chance to see, you know, some of these Liverpool legends and indeed Chelsea legends who you know might not have seen before, or it's just sort of nice to see again. So it's a brilliant day. People love it, but the impact for the city, the impact for the people who the foundation touch, the impact for the foundation itself, and when able to deliver, you know, the activities that they want to, is absolutely huge. So it's like a double reason to get a ticket.
Oh, it is a brilliant day. It's lovely. The sound of Anfield is different on Legends Day. You know, there's a bit less passion, a bit less shouting, but the tone of the crowd, it's so many more families. There's huge numbers of much more local demographic go to the game. So people who live in the city, support the club, don't often get to go to Anfield, can get a Legends ticket and come along and join the carnival atmosphere. But for me, apart from the fact that I Googled it yesterday, and Chelsea bring quite a tasty team when they put a Legends team out. So, you know, I hope whoever's managing our Legends team, and we've not announced that yet, in March is going to put a shift in, because they're going to need to win the game. But all of that money is coming to the Foundation's health programmes this year, which I'm so excited about, because I cannot think of another fundraising activity where you can put one event on and bring in close to £1 million every year, because that's what we've done for the last few Legends games. And bear in mind what I've said about every pound bringing back at least 12 quid's worth of social value. That means that potentially me and my trustee colleagues have got 12 million quid's worth of social value of good that we can do in this city after that game. So to people who might never have been to a Legends game and might think, I don't want to see those old men running around, it is a phenomenal day out. You'll have a really, really good laugh. The tickets are really, really competitively priced in terms of normal match day tickets.
Yeah.
You'll get a sense of the good that the foundation can do, and you'll go home feeling a real buzz that you might just have, for the first time, got a kid to stand up and kick a ball and maybe lose the weight he needs to lose to live a healthy life. You might well have helped one of our young people complete an employability course, get a job that's going to absolutely give them the best chance of health. You may well fund psychological talking therapy in schools with the Liverpool badge on. All of that brilliant stuff that changes lives in our city region is directly funded by coming for a good laugh, a day out of bevy, and watching those lads run around on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Get yourself down there. Tickets are on sale now, so you can get down to the Foundation game. Just go on the club website. Tickets are available from there. It's a fantastic day, but like we said, it raises a huge amount of money that makes a huge impact in the city. And just to finish off, Simon, you know, the Foundation, it just wants to keep growing. It just wants to keep affecting more people, both in the city sort of and beyond. And it's an ambitious next sort of 3-5 years that the club want to do. And as you said, led by Matt Parrish. But, you know, you all seem determined to make that happen because you've seen the real life impact that it can have on people who need it.
Yeah, the board is in a really, really good board of trustees of the Foundation's in a really, really good place. We feel that now's the time to kind of press on from a position of strength. And I think that under Matt's leadership, obviously, that we've grown and grown and grown. The opportunity to do good is there. And I think I've talked a lot about the local stuff. I think it'd be remiss of me not to talk about the work we do internationally. Because as well as growing to hitting 500,000 people, we know that through the use of some partners, and this doesn't water down what we do for the people of this city region at all. This is an additional value because, you know, John, you've been on the tours. There are Liverpool supporters all over the planet. And there's kids who need a better chance all over the planet. There's poverty all over the planet. And so through working through our partners, if we can do the kind of stuff I've talked about in Africa, in Asia, in the States, in Ireland, then why wouldn't we? Yeah. You know, why would we stop doing that when it's not detracting from what we do in Liverpool? It just furthers the good that the power of the badge can do.
Yeah, absolutely. The power of the badge is huge. It's worldwide, and thanks a lot to people like Simon. It's making a huge impact on people in the city and beyond. Thanks for coming in.
I enjoyed it, John. Thank you.
Cheers. It is Nottingham Forest tomorrow night. It is the biggest game of the season. Now, Big Dog, I'm not going to step on your toes too much. Obviously, you're the host of the greatest, preview show that exists in any sport for any team. Pretty much one. We'll be doing it straight afterwards. But yeah. I bet you're hoping that whoever is coming in, they are raring to go chomping at the bit because it starts now. It's the biggest game.
It is. It's massive, isn't it? I mean, it feels like the last few weeks have all been leading to this. So, yes, there's been League Cup semi-finals and there's been FA Cup fixtures, but it's hard not to have your eyes on this one. And obviously because Forest are flying high as well, they all of a sudden do present a genuine kind of problem, and I'm intrigued to see. Well, I know what they're like and I know what they're about, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they approach the game. But I can't imagine it's any different to how they've approached other games. Even when they go to Goodison Park recently, they have about 35% possession, and let's be clear, Everton are not a ball possession-based football team. So Forest have got no interest, or they are very, very happy.
Like fucking madness.
What is going on here? So they've got no interest in having the ball for large parts of the game, but that's what makes them, potentially a dangerous opposition, and Liverpool are going to have to be at it, because I think we have been able to question the last few games, certainly the United and Spurs game, where we've not quite been at our best, and you start to think, well, actually, is this maybe a slight wobble, albeit, they've only lost one of those games, and it was in a match where if you're going to lose one, that's the one you'd want to lose. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm intrigued, John, and I'm really excited as well, because it's such an opportunity to put a marker down, because if you do navigate this one, all of a sudden, all the pressure's on Arsenal. And I know people are talking about Forest a little bit. I know Carragher made the point, like, if they win on Tuesday, are they in it? I can't see a scenario where Nottingham Forest win the league. I just can't. But listen, let's give them the respect they deserve. If they do win, they're right on Liverpool's tails. But if we do get over the line in this one, my God, we are in such a healthy position.
Yeah, there's two ways of looking at it. I'll go to you, Ian. There's two ways of looking at it, isn't there? Which is, if Forest win, the 3 points behind, and that'll be, aside from the FA Cup, a few games for Liverpool where the first team have played and not got a result. But if they do win this game, then everyone will be watching. The teams who are chasing us, whoever they think they are, well, it's all of them, because we're top. Everyone's chasing us. Some of them are just chasing us closer than others. But anyone who fancies that they might catch us, it'll be so deflating for them if we can do Forest. And so I'd rather look at it in the positive way. What a great opportunity it is to extend the lead at the top.
Yeah, everybody's looking at it thinking this is the game where we slip up, aren't they? This is the one where they think, what has currently been a little bit of a stutter the last couple of weeks, 2 games where we didn't quite do what we should have done, didn't perform particularly brilliantly in the end either. Or the Spurs game, we kind of started playing football in the last 15 minutes of the first half, at the majority of the second half, but we haven't imposed ourselves the way we've been imposing ourselves previously. It's time to do that again, because this is the biggest Liverpool-Nottingham Forest game since 1982, I think. That's quite a thing, because they're breaking records all over the place in terms of their own club at the moment. And I am old enough to remember the fact that we sat in 1979, 1980 going, well, Forest can't win the league. Forest can't win the league. Forest can't win. Oh shit, Forest have won the league season after promotion. And I remember the force they were for 3-4 seasons there. They're not that at the moment, and there's no way of knowing if they will ever become that again. But Nuno's done a cracking job there. Arna's made sure, he pointed out in the press conference this morning, that they have spent a lot of money, so it shouldn't be a surprise they're doing well. But this is the one where we need to put a marker down. This is the one where if we do it, if we beat them, it does tell people that we're serious. We're serious again. We've had a blip for a fortnight, and this is us being a serious football team, and we're just getting past the blip very quickly. It's not turning into any kind of crisis. We're just pushing on, and we're obviously more than good enough to do it. We do owe them one for the beginning of the season, where I do think it was a valuable thing to lose to them, because I think it creates a lot of the control that we got thereafter, and the fact that we bounced back from it immediately with a win was massive. I think they told Arna a lot about the team and what he needs to do with the team, and how his team was building at the time, and what the league looks like. And obviously he's kind of rode back some comments in the press this morning. Basically, he said we shouldn't be losing to teams like Nottingham Forest. Now he's like, a team like Nottingham Forest is actually third in the league, so they are a good team, and maybe shouldn't have been as damning as he was at the time. He's given them a lot of respect, and which they fully deserve at the moment. And it should hopefully be a good game of football. But I'll take a really appalling game of football if we get 1-0 win.
They'll play how they play. Josh, Ian's right on that, whether they're home or away, whether they're playing Liverpool or Lincoln, they seem to want to be able to set up as they do. do you think Liverpool alter themselves sort of based on that, really? He seems to, like Ian says, he's obviously got he didn't quite say that he underestimated them, but he suggested that, it doesn't look as bad a result as what he was making out for weeks after, since they sort of keep sort of winning. So the problem, if you like, the Forest will have between now and the rest of the season is that people will take them sort of a lot more seriously. Do you see the manager changing a little bit, how he sort of, not necessarily sets up, but how they approach it, or how they approach certain situations? Or do you think, it'll be Liverpool's game plan against their game plan and see who comes out on top?
I think part of me leans towards the latter, yeah. Just simply because if you look at it in a weird sort of way, Slaughter's going to get the exact kind of game he usually wants, and Nuno's probably going to get the exact game he wants, in the sense that one team will have the ball, one team will look to break, and the team looking to break will be so pressured and they're very comfortable doing that. Liverpool will be tasked with breaking them down and putting out those fires before they spread. So I think a lot of it will just be, how good are you at doing what you think you're good at, and how good are we at doing what we think we're good at. I think you've got to do something to take care of the two wide players. They didn't start at Anfield because I think the intention was for the first hour to just kind of like stay in the game, really. But I think they'll start in this game. Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, both absolutely rapid. And I think, if anything, if we've had any weakness this season, it probably has been in the fullback areas when Trent and Robertson have been really isolated or attacked and things, and these two players are really direct. They will go straight at you. Whether our two fullbacks can cope, on their own, I have a question mark there. I think that's tricky. But Forest just remind me very Atletico Madrid for me at the minute. Very, very good at what they do and know exactly what they are. I've done a piece on them last night, and I think they've won 7 in a row now in all comps.
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
Yeah, 5 clean sheets on the bounce. Their biggest strength is their biggest superpower, if you want, is the defence. They just don't really concede, and they're not particularly fortunate with that either. They're just a good defence, mate. They don't really give you many clear-cut opportunities at all. You kind of get put in a position where you're almost forced to take long shots from outside the box, like ill-advised shots and that. And a lot of teams fall for it, and Liverpool will expect that now. I think Slot will expect that. It's going to be interesting though to see how we break that defence down without forcing the issue and then maybe conceding going the other way. Like, getting that balance, I think, is going to be really difficult in this game, especially in an atmosphere like this as well. It's a night game, it's a city ground. It's a big one.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what I was hinting at, really. What Josh has said there at the end, in that we're going to play how we play, but I think there will be a little part of him that's saying he's big on risk reward, isn't he? And that's someone that he's come in, and that's maybe a difference between him and Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was, would encourage his team, you feel, to take risk because they felt that the rewards were great, whereas Slot is a little bit more like, well, there's a time and a place on the pitch to take risks, and I think there'll be a few reminders of that today and tomorrow, and before they take the pictures. If you give the ball away, in trying to do something that's not really on, or in an area of the pitch where you should be protecting it, they can really hurt you. And I think that's not a different approach necessarily. It's just a reminder of really what his values are anyway.
No, I think it's spot on. And whilst you were chatting, I had a little look at the stats for possession against Luton. Obviously, they're at home, and they had 45% possession for us, so they just did not give a shit about even dominating the ball against a team from a lower league on their own turf. It's just like, no, we will play our own way. So there's no chance of that changing. I think the point around the fullbacks that Josh talks about is really important, because there's no doubt, and we've all had our say at various times, and I've had my say recently on the fullback areas, and certainly on some of the stuff that we've seen from Trent, but I'd expect it to be Trent and Robertson. But I think where Robertson is now, I think you could ask, I don't know, a room full of people, and people might just have a different view, and that's not because I think all of a sudden Tsimikas is the answer, but I think Robbo's performances have been of such a level where, that the old kind of saying about being at the scene of the crime gets used quite often with him this season. People now might just think Tsimikas could be a better option, and that's so far removed from where we were a couple of years ago, where there was absolutely no question. There was no comparison between those footballers, and I don't want to dig Tsimikas out because I think he's probably better than what a lot of people have given him credit for.
He's done all right for this manager.
I think he has.
So
I think he's
sat here, he'd be like, well, he's done all right for me.
And he started him loads in Champions League games, so we obviously trust him to an extent. But I don't think anyone's sitting here thinking he should be Liverpool's main left-back next season. That would feel like a bit of, dereliction of duty if we haven't got a proper new fullback in come next year. But I think there's a genuine conversation to be had now, because I think both players have got weaknesses, and in Trent we know that his qualities do lie in what he does going further forward than what he does going the other way at times. And Liverpool will have to be careful on that. Van Dijk will have a responsibility to make sure that line is tight and people are tucking in when they need to be. The midfield is the same as well. That's why I think it was so important Szoboszlai got back for this match, because the ground he covers, he is able to press. He's a pressing monster, but just getting back in if Liverpool lose the ball, having someone like him feels massive. Same with Gravenberch. McAllister's unbelievably talented, but you say if there was a weakness in his game, it is sometimes that once you passed him, because he's not quite quick enough to get back in, as wonderful footballer as he is. So yeah, Liverpool are going to have to be at it. They're going to have to be at the best. I'm intrigued what he does up front. I think it will probably be Gakpo, Diaz, Salah, because I think Jota is still working his way back to full fitness.
He plays the full 90 as well.
Plays the full 90, so you'd be surprised. But I think maybe a few weeks out from this game, people might have been looking at it and thinking, it could be a game for Jota, but just because of where he is with his fitness, you suspect that he probably will go with the three that he's used quite often recently. Obviously, there's no Nunes because of suspension, but let's be honest, I don't think he would have been anywhere near this one anyway, to be fair.
Robbo, I've stuck up for him a fair bit this year, because I think it's sort of been a little bit exaggerated, but it's interesting. Before the game on Saturday, there was a game on the screen where I was, and it was one of them where it's a little bit far away to sort of see it. It was an old Liverpool game, and there was this guy herring about, and I was like, fucking hell, who the fuck's that? And then I looked and it was Robertson, and I was like, shit, he doesn't play like that anymore. Do you know what I mean? He sort of has lost that energy, but I think he will go for him in this game, Josh, because I think he's played the last two sort of Chamika, so you'd have thought that's to rest Robertson sort of for this. I think he will go Trent. I wasn't sure before the two games, but I think as much for his performance when he came on against Tottenham for me, rather than anything against Accrington. Listen, he scores a worldie against Accrington, but we know he's sort of got that in him, and that's the quality. But I think when he came on against Tottenham, he was looked seriously determined, I thought, and not just creatively, but he was tearing back when he needed to, and that's what he'll need to be doing against Forest. So I think he will go Trent and Robbo. I don't know what you think, but on the Szoboszlai one, I'm not as sure as Ian, because I think he's just rested Jones, and surely that's for a reason, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think he goes Trent and Robbo. I think with Trent in this game, you're unlocking that defence. You're picking that lock, and you need players, especially in deeper areas, who can look into that block and find ways around it and things like that. And Trent is obviously one of those players. It's just a worry when he faces Hudson-Odoi, who will just go straight at him. And I think with Robertson, it's the same. Like this does not feel like a good match for Robbo. This Alanga's unbelievably quick, mate. Like I was watching clips back yesterday of Forest's goals recently, and they score a goal against Spurs. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, I watched the game live.
Yeah, it gets played through the channel. Maybe if it's Liverpool, maybe Virgil just sweeps it up, but it's in the space behind Robertson. Basically, Alanga just hoovers it up and finishes, I think, with his first or second touch. But that space in behind, we've seen Robbo come up against a few. Like Madueke comes to mind.
The Saka one he gets done for the
Saka,
goal.
Yeah, there was Gruder against Brighton. That was one where there was a moment in the Brighton game where he's caught like 4 yards behind the rest of his line, to the extent where he's out the shot.
Even Southampton in the league a couple of times, he was getting caught as well.
Yeah,
doing the same thing, where he's just hanging back a little bit because he's panicking.
That's what happens when you get a bit older, though. Yeah, that's generally the first tell to suggest that a player's maybe moving past his peak, when he starts thinking, I'm going to need a bit of a head start here. So he's been taking those yards, and he's been just the whole scene of the crime thing. He's just like a second late to certain situations where he previously hasn't been. But if you're a second late and you're the last man, it's a pen or it's a red card. So that's why he's been, in the spotlight. It's because it's been high profile errors, like. So yeah, the two fullbacks are the big concerns for me. I think with Jones, the thing with Jones is the 2 games Szoboszlai missed, Jones wasn't very good in them.
Yeah.
So, and Szoboszlai, I've just spoke about Hudson-Odoi, Trent will need protecting. Szoboszlai does more of that for me than anybody. covers a lot of ground, and if the ball bypasses him, he can actually get back and still recover and get behind the ball, whereas a lot of other players can't. So I would probably lean towards Szoboszlai for this game if he's fit and fine. Like, I mean,
yeah, I think I would. It was just telling to me that he completely rested the three of them. So you'd have thought in normal circumstances, if he's resting the three you've played, then these sort of all come back.
Do you think he's playing well enough, Jones, John? I don't think
he is in those two games, but I just wonder. I've said this on another show about all this illness, nothing about whether it's affected others that we sort of don't know about. It seems to be, to me, unlikely that, you know, the only illness has been sort of the ones that we've sort of seen. You see Quansah start a game and then go off because he can't breathe, you know, and so I just wonder whether there was a little bit more of that sort of going on. But I think all things being equal, I would start Szoboszlai for all the reasons that you guys have said. But I think I'm just thinking about what the manager's likely to do, and it feels to me like he takes the three of them out, you know, to give them a rest. So you sort of bring them all back in, but then Szoboszlai only plays the half, doesn't he? So maybe that's to get him right. I'd rather see Szoboszlai in there in this specific game. I'm just thinking what he's likely to do. I don't know. What do you think, Ian?
Sorry, I was going to say, I think the only way Szoboszlai doesn't play is if he's still feeling the effects of the illness, personally.
Does he play 45?
Plays 45,
yeah. I think that's just about enough for it.
Yeah, checking him over, keep him ticking, yeah.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. It'll be down to how he's reacted to that 45 minutes. And one thing I noticed when watching the telly later, he does look like a lad who's just been sick for a couple of weeks. He looked a bit, coming from me, the skinniest bloke on earth. He looked a bit gaunt in the face. He looked like a lad who looked a little bit tired when he was coming off the pitch. But you don't know. That's 3 days ago by the time we play tomorrow, isn't it? So it could be enough that he could play for an hour and then Curtis comes on for half an hour. And Curtis Szoboszlai could be what we need in order to have his legs. Because, Man United and Spurs were both games that were crying out for Szoboszlai to be on the pitch. And he would have been perfect for both. I think he'll be perfect for this. I think you start him with the intention of bringing Jones on around about the hour.
Well, we'll see what he does. There's going to be loads more of this on the Anfield Wrap. So Ian Salmon has referenced the team talk that is available, if not now, then very soon. That's for video subscribers. That is the proper reaction to the press conference ahead of the game. Ian Ryan, in about 15 minutes or so, is going to host the pre-match warm-up, which will be looking ahead to the game as well. And then tomorrow we're doing on here, if you're watching on YouTube, on YouTube we'll be doing a live Talking Reds in the morning, looking ahead to the game as well. So it's massive. We've got loads going on. Then straight after the game tomorrow for Anfield Wrap subscribers, the best post-match reaction anyway. We're going to be doing audio on the road. I think we're doing it in my cousin's cafe, actually. She lives less than a mile from the ground, the city ground, so I think we'll probably be doing it there. She doesn't know yet. But I'm parking in the driver, fella does. So we'll maybe go in there, have a beer before we go back, and hopefully after the big win they'll be doing the video back here. Listen, it's an exciting time to be a Liverpool fan. It's a great time to be a Red, and we think it's a fantastic time to subscribe to the Anfield app. So download the app if you haven't already. Get stuck in, get involved with those shows. It's worth it just for Ian Ryan, to be honest with you. And everything else from there is a lovely bonus. Press conference action as well. Have you done it, Andy? He's done it. He's sorted it out. Brilliant, he says. 10 out of 10. Well better than that shite Ian Ryan does. He's Marvin to me, which seems a little bit harsh, but hey, good to be competitive. That is out as well. So many shows. I almost forgot one there. Thanks a lot to Andy for producing this. Obviously, for everyone for helping sort of pull that together. Paddy on the video. Up to Reds.